We believe family members should prepare themselves for the worst.
The question, well, why did they hijack the aircraft? What was the motive? And why fly to the southern Indian Ocean?
No way of knowing, because the cockpit voice recorder is at the bottom of the Indian Ocean someplace.
I realized that I had just found the second piece of debris in the greatest aviation mystery.
A routine flight on a clear night with 239 souls aboard, lost in a mystery that remains unsolved.
Prime Minister of Malaysia now says Flight 370 was, quote, deliberately diverted and flew for at least another 6 hours after cutting off contact with the ground.
As each year goes by, the tale of MH370 continues to evolve into one of the most captivating mysteries of our era.
These movements are consistent with deliberate action by someone on the plane.
Just when it felt like hope had slipped away, fresh details have surfaced, sparking the questions that have lingered all along. What truly unfolded on that unforgettable night?
Those signals and deciding where the aircraft was on a particular route and a path.
In the early hours of March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 was all set for its overnight journey from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. The Boeing 777-200ER was celebrated for its reliability and safety, boasting an impressive service history. On board were 239 passengers and crew, each carrying their own unique stories and hopes, united on what was meant to be a routine journey across the South China Sea. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah, an experienced pilot with more than 18,000 hours of flight time, was at the helm. With him was First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid, a young yet skilled co-pilot boasting around 2,800 flight hours. They appeared to be perfectly prepared to handle this flight.
The pilot had no history of emotional or physical problems that would preclude suicide.
The passengers formed a vibrant tapestry: business travelers, families on vacation, students heading home, individuals from 14 different countries, each with their own destinations and dreams that would sadly remain unfulfilled. Flight MH370 departed from Kuala Lumpur International Airport at 12:41 a.m., soaring gracefully into the dark expanse above. The plane ascended to its designated cruising altitude of 35,000 feet, and for the initial hour, all unfolded as expected. Regular check-ins between the crew and air traffic controllers indicated everything was running smoothly. Inside the passenger cabin, the familiar atmosphere emerged. Individuals dozed off, immersed themselves in books, enjoyed in-flight movies, or just took a moment to unwind. At 1:19 a.m., a hauntingly simple transmission from the cockpit marked the final known words from Flight MH370. "Good night, Malaysian 370. Shortly after, the transponder, responsible for tracking aircraft on radar, stopped transmitting. The plane vanished from civilian radar screens. Its signal was abruptly cut off without any warning or sign of trouble. A routine flight had transformed into something remarkable and frightening. The tale of Flight MH370 took an astonishing turn in the moments and hours that ensued. Military radar would later uncover that, despite the plane disappearing from civilian tracking systems, it had kept flying. And not just fly, it took a sharp turn. MH370 made a surprising turn back toward the Malay Peninsula, flying over land before venturing into the vastness of the Andaman Sea. The plane's movements during this time remain one of aviation's greatest mysteries. It wasn't just the change in direction, it was the purposeful maneuvers, the way the aircraft crossed different navigational waypoints, as if under the command of someone who knew exactly what they were doing. The plane flew across Malaysia, made a sharp turn to the southwest, then a final turn northwest, skimming over the edge of the Andaman Sea before eventually vanishing entirely from radar at 2:22 a.m. When Flight MH370 disappeared, the world was stunned. Families of the passengers anxiously waited for news that never came. In the immediate aftermath, confusion and misinformation compounded the unfolding crisis. Was it a technical failure? A hijacking? Could the plane have landed somewhere or crashed into the sea? The initial search focused on the South China Sea, where MH370 was last recorded before disappearing from radar. Naval ships and aircraft from multiple nations scoured the area in a desperate hunt for clues. But the ocean yielded nothing. No debris, no sign of wreckage, nothing to hint at the fate of the plane. Days later, a startling revelation shifted the focus of the investigation. Military radar data revealed that MH370 had deviated significantly from its planned route. The plane had veered away from its path to Beijing and crossed the Malay Peninsula, heading toward the Indian Ocean. This shocking information expanded the search area dramatically, and international efforts turned their attention westward to the vast waters of the Andaman Sea and beyond. The most significant break in the search came not from radar, but from space. A British satellite company, Inmarsat, reported that their satellites had picked up a series of automated handshakes between the aircraft and one of their orbiting devices. These signals showed that the plane had continued flying for up to 7 hours after losing contact with ground control. This led investigators to two possible flight corridors, a northern route stretching into Central Asia and a southern route leading deep into the Indian Ocean. Weeks turned into months, and still there was no trace of the missing plane. The families of the 239 people on board endured unbearable uncertainty, clinging to any shred of hope, while the world watched in helpless fascination. For a time, it seemed that MH370 had become a ghost, swallowed by the endless ocean. Then in July 2015, a breakthrough came. A piece of debris washed ashore on the French island of Réunion, off the coast of Madagascar. It was identified as a wing flaperon from a Boeing 777, and it was soon confirmed to be from an MH370. This was the first tangible evidence that the plane had indeed met a tragic end in the Indian Ocean. Over the following years, additional pieces of debris were found along the coasts of Africa and on islands scattered across the Indian Ocean, slowly building a picture of MH370's final moments.
The plane could rapidly depressurize, meaning that people would suffocate very rapidly.
A particularly chilling theory suggests hypoxia, a condition where a loss of cabin pressure leads to a lack of oxygen, incapacitating the crew and passengers. In this scenario, the plane, still on autopilot, would have continued along its path until its fuel ran out. This theory could explain the ghostly trajectory of MH370, but it doesn't answer why the transponder was deliberately turned off or why the plane altered its course. On March 24, 2014, 16 days after the disappearance, Malaysia's Prime Minister, Najib Razak, delivered a devastating statement. Analysis of the satellite data had led investigators to conclude that MH370's journey had ended in the remote southern Indian Ocean. There were no survivors. For the families, this announcement brought an end to the agonizing hope that their loved ones might somehow be alive. The world mourned as they did, watching scenes of unbearable grief play out in the media as families came to terms with the loss. In January 2017, after almost 3 years of exhaustive searching, the official underwater search was suspended. Despite covering over 120,000 square kilometers of ocean floor, an area larger than many countries, no significant evidence of the main wreckage was found. The decision to halt the search was met with disappointment and frustration, especially by the families who had waited so long for answers. It seemed as though the ocean was determined to keep its secrets, no matter the cost. Where is flight MH370? What happened during those final hours as the plane flew off course, beyond the reach of radar, and out into the deep ocean? These are questions that may never be fully answered. As time passes, the likelihood of finding the wreckage diminishes, but the determination to uncover the truth endures. The story of MH370 is not just about a plane that went missing. It is about the enduring human need for answers, for closure, and for the comfort of knowing what happened to those we loved. If you were at the helm of this investigation, what strategies would you deploy? How would you navigate the immense challenges in the search for closure? The saga of MH370 is a testament to our relentless quest for truth and our unwavering belief that some mysteries must be solved. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and check out our next video right here.